welcome. And at the beginning of our ingathering service, with a water ceremony, in the pagan tradition, we'll use water imagery to call the four directions, and we'll bless the water used today.
Water from the north, from icy seas and frozen lands, water that commingles and is part of the water of the globe. Bless these waters, that they may be healing waters. May the waters make us new.
Water from the south, from summer showers and warm lagoons, and also water from recent hurricanes. Water that commingles and is part of the water of the globe. Bless these waters, that they may bring us back to ourselves. May the waters make us whole.
Water from the east, from oceans and sacred pools. Water that commingles and is part of the water of the globe. Bless these waters, that they may quench our thirst now and evermore. May the waters make us free.
Water from the west, from dry and heat-worn places. Water especially precious for its scarcity. Water that commingles and is part of the water of the globe. Bless these waters, for they restore us to community once again. May the waters make us one. And having called the directions, we place ourselves in the center and have gratitude for water near us, from Great Lakes and area rivers, even from the Toledo water supply, and for all water. May the water we celebrate and use in today's ceremony and service be blessed. Water is all around us, is within us, is part of life. We celebrate what water is, what water does. And as Luann lights the chalice, let's all say the words for lighting we'll use throughout this coming church year, and they're in your order of service. We are Unitarian Universalists, with minds that think, hearts that love, and hands that are ready to serve. Together we care for our earth and work for friendship and peace in our world. And while we're reciting together, Luann, why don't you lead our covenant of this congregation?
I will be glad to.
And everybody speak along.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Today on our minds, in our hearts, and with our spirits, welcome back is the feeling. And water is a way we'll express our togetherness. It's the start of our new church year, a vestige in a way of times past, when the church would mostly close for the summer, the congregation would go on vacations, and ministers would be away taking extended breaks. It's no longer that way, but we still have kind of an academic year model of fall through spring as our year, coinciding with the study and work schedules of students and teachers. Even though several years ago, First Unitarian became a year-round church with services every week and activities happening through the summer. But new starts are part of religion. So every year, usually on this first Sunday after Labor Day, we have a new start. Welcome back, and be active Toledo Unitarians here at least through May, if not all the coming year. And speaking of no longer that way, you get a rare look at some pomp and circumstance up here, as we decided to put on robes, and our choir is here. Welcome all of you. And be kind of fancy for our water ceremony to welcome you to First Unitarians in Gathering. Part of this on our minds, in our hearts, with our spirits time at the beginning of Sunday services is to lift up things of celebration and concern for people in our congregation. Sometimes issues facing our church, our city, our ways. Sometimes illness or death of people in our circles. Sometimes gratitude for good things happening. These joys and sorrows can be the focus for the upcoming time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer, but we bring them up here for the entire Sunday service, and before or after too, as they are part of our lives. These are dimensions of living that stay with us beyond a brief time of looking inward. Death, illness, and life changes are always among us. I have sad news to share that Chris Bynes, a longtime member of First Unitarian, died yesterday. There will be a service here at the church, and when the plans are made, we'll let you know. Our sympathies, of course, are with his wife, Alice, and their family. Today, our thoughts also go to people whose living situations are new to them because of health and aging. One church member has been in the hospital for more than a week and will be moving not back to where they had lived, but into a residential place. The term used to be nursing home. Another member went through some of that over the past year and is also in the place of residence where this church member will live. And we also have a member who had been receiving hospital care, checked out and went out of town to resolve some long-standing finance matters, and now is back, waiting to move into a rented room and is in a shelter until they can do that. The challenges of health and life change are or will be with us all. Plus, we know that others in our congregation are caring for relatives and friends, and we appreciate the caregivers. One other health-related point here. COVID-19 is on the increase again. And while we're all vulnerable, many in our congregation have added factors for risk of health or livelihood, so we want to do our best to avoid infection. This is now a place that's mask optional, but at the same time, we encourage masking. Please be careful yourself. Be attentive that others don't want to contract COVID, and be vaccinated and boosted. You might have your own items for meditation, contemplation, and prayer. We are here in community, and though yours are unvoiced, you are with us too. We can share the burdens and be glad for accomplishments. We are together, in fact and in spirit. And now please join us for our opening hymn. Today is number 1007 in our Teal hymnal supplement. Please join our choir for this congregational singing of There's a River Flowing in My Soul. Stand if you're willing and able. Please be seated. We're moving a few things around from their usual place for today's service and adding some items for today too. Because we like the water ceremony to be an all-church event, we'll have that next. And with our choir back after their summer break, we'll have the children and religious education teachers here a bit longer so all of us can listen to a choral anthem. Then our Director of Lifelong Learning, Jenny Gottman, will tell a story for all of us. And only after all of that will we sing for the children with the children's recessional that our music director, Jeffrey Maxey, found as they lead for their religious education time. And I hear that they'll continue today's theme with their own water observance. And after our time for meditation, contemplation, and prayer, we're having a different reflection hymn than Spirit of Life, as we're going to start rotating a few different songs rather than having the same one every week. So after our post-meditation minute of silence, we'll have the first verse of Blessed Spirit of My Life. Now, though, let's take part in a ceremony. Luann, Jenny, and Melissa.
All water is one water. This is by Mel Hoover and Rose Eddington. Water unites us. All water is one water, shape-shifting as it goes on and on its unending cycle. The stream we gather by unites us with all waters of the world, for all life depends on water. That's why this common everyday element on which our very lives depend is sacred. In our thankfulness for water, let's remember to honor, cherish, and care for it, for our own lives, for all life touched by water, and for those who come after us.
We gather as many drops by Leslie Takahashi. We gather as many drops, each winding our own path down life's surfaces and ruts. Here we pull together as a single body, flowing together for a time. Together we are a stream, at times even a river, for with our shared force we can travel toward oceans of meaning and seas of connection.
May the waters gather here by Susan Carlson. May the waters gathered here remind us of what each of us brings to this community of the waters that nourished us before we were born, that continue to give us sustenance and energy for our life journeys, and for all creatures on this earth. May we gratefully continue to swim to the other side.
It's a tradition in many Unitarian Universalist congregations that people collect water over the summer from places important to them or from their travels. They bring their containers to church on in-gathering Sunday and pour them into a communal basin, making a focus point for all of our individual excursions and explorations coming together in this room. We haven't done a water ceremony at First Unitarian Church of Toledo in 5 years. At in-gathering time, I've been highlighting different elements, not just water. So we had fire in 2017, air in 2019, water in 2020, earth in 2021 during the pandemic when our services were online only, and quintessence, the mysterious fifth element, in 2021. And last year, the periodic table of the elements, as we respect science as well as tradition. Today, we're back to water, and we know that the water ceremony is a sacred Unitarian Universalist tradition. We know, though, that gathering water from summer travels and bringing that with you to begin a new church year is no longer practical. with restrictions on what you can bring on a flight, for example, and just remembering to store it and bring it one particular Sunday. So we've supplied the water, and if you did bring your own, you're welcome to add it to our bowl. After Luann, Jenny, and Melissa share a ritual for water communion by Gary Kowalski, all in the sanctuary will have the opportunity to say a couple of words, if you want, about the place you're remembering water from over the summer or another special time. And I'm sorry that we don't have technical connections today so that people at home can join in and take part in the shared portions of the ceremony.
This begins our ritual for water communion by Gary Kowalski. We draw from many wells, from oceans and rivers, from lakes and streams, from the muddy Mississippi to the roaring Rio Grande, from faraway places and from ponds and puddles in our own backyards. Yet all are refreshing, each rivulet is cleansing, each capable of nurturing and sustaining life.
As people of faith, we draw inspiration from many sources, from earth and sky, from poetry and legend, from art and music, from conscience and the law written in our own hearts. Each satisfy our deep thirst for meaning and the yearning for justice that rolls down like waters in the soul.
As we call forth the names of spiritual traditions that inspire you, I invite you to honor the religious diversity that enlivens our Unitarian Universalist faith.
Pagan traditions worldwide,
Religions from Yoruba, Egypt, and other parts of the continent of Africa.
Asian traditions, including Hindu, Jain, Buddhist, Confucian, Tao, Shinto, and Sikh.
from the Middle East and Europe, faiths of the Hebrews, Zoroastrian, Greek, Christian, Roman, Islam, of Norse people, Baha'i.
From the Americas, Mayan, Aztec, other indigenous nations, Mormon, ethical culture, theosophy, humanism.
And Aboriginal Australian spirituality.
We leave room for other traditions that we haven't mentioned.
All can be part of our Unitarian Universalist seeking and sometimes finding.
We bring our water into communion to share with one another, just as we pull the many insights that inform our own singular experience. For a droplet of water alone has no color. It remains clear and translucent, almost invisible. But in combination, the many drops together can create a brightly varied rainbow, unseen realities made real and present for all to witness.
Together, we aspire to represent the full spectrum of humanity.
To make love, justice, and hope visible upon the earth.
As common as the water that makes our world and us.
So for the water sharing, from these pitchers of water, please pour a splash into the basin. You'll have the opportunity to say a couple of words if you wish, where your water is from, what you want your pouring of water to represent, how water helps you to be whole, for example. But please be very brief, only a couple of words, no speeches. And you in the sanctuary can say more about it when you mingle and chat at the potluck after the service. And sometime after the service, we'll use this water that we shared in ceremony to water our memorial garden. And we also have over here glasses of water for drinking. Symbolically, in congregation, let's also take this in as a type of communion among us. This is Toledo tap water. It's certified drinkable. And I know some of you won't ordinarily sip from the city water supply, but it's only a taste, and it joins us to this place. Plus, remember, water is life. So there will be 3 things to do for those of you who come up. First, say something about water, whether it's water you brought or the water from those pitchers. You might mention a body of water or a sacred waterside place dear to you. That's first. Second, pour the water into this basin. Again, pour just a splash, please. And if you don't want to pour, you can take the ladle and dip it, it barely fits, into a pitcher, and then pour it into the basin just to stir the pot in a way. And then the third thing to do is to take one of these small glasses of water and drink it, sharing sustenance in community. After that, return to your seat. And before we start coming up, we'll go to a few people in the congregation who don't easily make the walk up or move up. And we can hear from them from their seats. And please raise your hand or indicate in another way that we should come to you. For example, if you're holding a baby, you might not want to do the difficult thing and bring it up with you, but we can come to you. So, do we have any people who would like to speak from their seats? I see no takers. All right. Well, let's hear our choir centering music, then we'll do the sharing. Wait, oh no, I'm sorry. We're not doing centering music yet. We're actually doing the ceremony now. Please, come up. I'll bravely begin. This is water from right here, where I work, where I serve this congregation.
Water has life. Without water, there is no life. I've had lots of good times around water. Example.
Oh, this is water from the creek at Woodlawn, where I visit every week.
This is water from Ecuador, our weekday, which goes in the mountains.
The Parliament of World Religions, Lake Michigan, the Tribes of the Union of the Atlantic Ocean. Our water from my sister's cottage in Wisconsin is at home, so this represents that. We visited Lake Chautauqua with new friends, visited Milwaukee, Wisconsin with old friends, and we visited Pine Lake, Wisconsin with my family.
This reminds me of a trip to Lourdes, France. Bring you back here.
Erie to Lake Erie for Lake Erie. Yes.
McGregor Bay, Canada, where our family shares wonderful gatherings. My favorite memory is visiting.
This is for water off in the Gulf of Mexico, off Honeymoon Island, in Florida, in August. Not a recommended time to go.
And this is for my favorite water, Niagara Falls.
Philadelphia water, I visited 3 Aunt Mary's.
I'm thinking of Virginia Hall, the James River, and the Atlantic Ocean.
This is the first time that I look at my kitchen window and the habitat it provides for birds, amphibians, animals, and whatever.
I'm thinking of how the name of our state comes from a Seneca word meaning good river. So this is for the Ohio River.
Old enough to remember my mother pumping water out of a well. Must be a little.
Water is very important because everyone needs water to live. Without water, we would all be at all, be without those, but everyone has water.
And I'm thinking of the Atlantic Ocean and Ocean City, Maryland.
Remembering the beautiful Ohio West.
I'm thinking of how we always welcome rain in my home state of Kansas.
Mostly water. The 3 branches, 4-inch river.
We know water is wonderful for nature and our bodies, but I have to say, we never had a sprinkler system before. We always lived in rural areas. And we worried so much last year, and then we discovered we had a sprinkler system, and voila, we had the most beautiful lawn. What a gift.
Findlay, Ohio, which is the clinical counseling degree in July.
Water in East Brook where I played as a child. For this week's rainwater, which has given us such an abundant mushroom.
Water from the Maumee River back to Toledo and sat and had dinner besides the river for the first time ever.
Water, water everywhere. Without it, we could not live. Bless this water.
Water from the neighborhood, over the ditch. They may not overflow too long.
On behalf of brother and sister indigenous water protectors, remind us that all water is sacred.
This is cold water from Vermont.
Water to life.
And I pour water for the unsaid, for those who perhaps thought about participating but chose to stay in their seats. This is water for all. And now, with our quiet in place, let's listen.
I would like to invite my little and medium-sized friends to come forward if they would like to hear and see the story a little better. If you want to stay where you are, that's fine too. Good morning, awesome people. Rain falls upon the surface of the earth, and pulled by gravity, each drop begins to flow downhill. Drop merges with drop, flowing together into a trickle, a stream, a creek, a mighty river flowing onward. Some of the water seeps down into the earth itself as groundwater or deep aquifers where it will stay for days, years, or even millennia until it's pulled up again by tree roots, wells, springs, and geysers, rejoining the dance, the flowing, flowing, flowing. The water flows on until it's collected in ponds, lakes, seas, and vast oceans. And all the while, the sun's rays warm the water, calling it back into vapor, so light that it can rise up, 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 each molecule moving on its own, rising into the higher atmosphere, buoyant and swirling up to where the air grows cool, and the water vapor slows and cools and begins to turn again back into droplets. Droplets find droplets and join together again and again, forming clouds, growing heavier and heavier, until at last the weight of them pulls them down again, and rain falls on the surface of the earth again. Everywhere on earth, at every moment, is somewhere in this cycle. Cycle upon cycles, falling, flowing, sinking, transforming, rising, again and again and again. For those who would like to do a little demonstration, you can move your hands up like water vapor, and then down as rain. Continue to demonstrate until you feel your cycle is over. Our planet has all the water it ever will have and ever has had. This water cycle has been spiraling around and around for more than 4.5 billion years. This means that the water that we gather in our annual ritual comes from all over the world and also from all across time on Earth. The water we gathered today has traveled through the root systems of trees long since returned to soil, bursts from geysers that stopped spraying millennia ago, and flowed down rivers that have changed courses entirely over billions of years. This morning, we remember that the water cycle doesn't only involve rivers and plants and clouds, but also involves creatures. The water cycles through us, too, coming in and out of our bodies in many different ways. That means that the molecules in the water in Lake Erie or the Maumee River or Swan Creek could have been the tears of joy and sorrow cried by the first person who ever felt love, or that water from our church sink contains within it molecules that were once in the best chicken soup someone ever ate, or in the sweat of the people who built our church and our town, or in the blood of the mothers that birthed our grandmothers, 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 possibly even from dinosaur pee. What and when and where else do you imagine this water might have been? Anybody have any ideas? What is it? From rain? Yeah, definitely. Anything else? As we celebrate the water and be in community this morning, let us remember that the water connects us to everything that has ever been and everything that will ever be. That is the power of the water we share.
Joy,
join me for our time of meditation, contemplation, and prayer. This reading is Water Makes Its Mark by Matt Alstott. A glass of tea sweats a circle of droplets on an old table. Drying, they pull dirt and stain from the wood, leaving a ring. Water makes its mark. Deep in the earth, in a cave, a drop falls each minute. Where it lands, a great pillar of white rock has grown up. Water makes its mark. On the surface above, a stream burbles and flows, carving out potholes in the granite of its bed. Water makes its mark. Along a highway cut, a geologist points out the layers of tan slate, each penny-thin sheet, the memory of a torrential rainstorm eons ago. Water makes its mark. In its network of veins, the blood, salty like the seawater from which we sprang, flows on in cycles, giving life. Water makes its mark. The dark clouds pass on, yielding no rain. Crops wither, and drought comes. Famine, migration, violence, and death soon follow. Water makes its mark. A space probe turns its camera toward whence it came, imaging one solitary pixel of light, its color the pale blue of oceans. Water makes its mark. A solitary tear slides down the cheek, a tear of abiding joy, a tear of unending grief. We see and share the depth of feeling at its true core. Water makes its mark. Let's observe 1 minute of silence.
This reading is from Associated Press. Scientists say new epoch marked by human impact. The Anthropocene began in the 1950s. From climate change to species loss and pollution, humans have etched their impact on the earth, with such strength and permanence since the middle of the 20th century that a special team of scientists say a new geologic epoch began then, called the Anthropocene, and derived from the Greek terms for human and new. This epoch started somewhere between 1950 and 1954, according to the scientists. While there is evidence worldwide that captures the impact of burning fossil fuels, detonating nuclear weapons, and dumping fertilizers and plastics on land and in waterways, the scientists are proposing a small but deep lake outside of Toronto, Canada, Crawford Lake, to place a historic marker. The group aims to determine a specific start date of the Anthropocene by measuring plutonium levels at the bottom of Crawford Lake. Crawford Lake, which is 79 feet deep and 25,800 square feet in surface area, was chosen over 11 other sites because of the annual effects of human activity on the Earth's soil, atmosphere, and biology are so clearly preserved in its layers of sediment. That includes everything from nuclear fallout, excuse me, to species-threatening pollution, to steadily rising temperatures. The scientific working group is proposing that the Anthropocene epoch followed the Holocene epoch, which started about 11,700 years ago at the end of an ice age.
Don't be frightened that I'm really going to settle in for a very long time because I'm getting a chair. I have stood for quite a while today and do need to sit. And I did cut about 1/3 of the original sermon as well. So we know that the ingathering is normally a long service, and we'll be here a few minutes. Crawford Lake is small enough to walk around in 10 minutes, journalist Raymond John wrote in a New York Times story. But, he added, it is so deep that the bottom layer of water rarely mixes with the upper layers. Whatever sinks to the floor remains undisturbed, gradually accumulating into a tree ring-like record of geochemical change. On this water ceremony Sunday, with our Unitarian Universalist principle and value of knowing that we are all part of an interdependent web of human existence, of all existence, I'm highlighting Crawford Lake for one of the many wonders of water preserving. It's not the best story that what sediment from Crawford Lake shows are bad effects of human activity on the condition of the world. But Crawford Lake reveals that people made Earth less than an Eden, and we did so to such an extent that scientists say we began a new epoch for our planet called the Anthropocene, almost 12,000 years after the last great epochal geological change for our globe, the Holocene, began when the planet emerged from an ice age. The uniqueness of Crawford Lake, as described by writer Alana Mitchell in Canadian Geographic Magazine, is that this humble little lake's chemistry is among the rarest in the world. For one thing, the lake is meromictic, meaning its top and bottom layers never mix. The ratio of its depth to its surface area prevents mixing. But in addition, the bottom layer contains oxygen. Geologists know of no other lake in North America with that combination, and few others in the world. The result is that material falls to the bottom of the lake and is sealed by deposits of calcite in distinct couplets of layers called verves, separated into summer and winter seasons. Each layer can be dated to the exact year. With Crawford Lake in mind, let's get out of the water for a bit to focus on people, geology, and the planet Earth. Crawford Lake is proposed as the place to mark the beginning of the Anthropocene epoch, based on the evidence the lake's bottom reveals. not a place of an actual world-changing event, but where you can determine the record. As you heard, we're currently in the Holocene epoch. This is labeling, description, categorizing that scientists developed only in the 19th century. Unitarian minister and prominent scientist Joseph Priestley, who was said to discover oxygen, which he called dephlogisticated air, died in 1804. So he didn't know that he was, and today we are, living in the Megallian age of the Holocene epoch, of the Quaternary period, of the Cenozoic era, of the Phanerozoic eon. That dating and naming from the 4,200 years we've had of the Magellanan age to the 541 million years of our Phanerozoic eon came later as the geologic time index. It's how geologists mark the major changes of our planet. And you who are knowledgeable about this terminology, please forgive my likely mispronunciations. Crawford Lake is so important because it would mark our leaving the Megallian age and the Holocene epoch, and being at the very beginning of the Crawfordian age and the Anthropocene epoch. Changes from effects that our planet has had for 4,200 and 11,700 years. That's not necessarily a change to cheer about. What we people have done to our planet is at a point where we're realizing we must make some big moves to reduce our effect on our home. This recognition by scientists of planetary change has been in the works in a more focused and formal process since about the year 2000, and marking the beginning of the Anthropocene could come to a final ratification vote at the 2024 meeting of the International Geological Congress in South Korea. The concept of the Anthropocene era really began with a realization by scientist and Nobel Prize winner Paul Crutzen. As reported by Andrew Rifkin, a science journalist who actually has an official say, along with some scientists, on presenting the Anthropocene epoch for Geological Congress ratification, Crutzen blurted out the foundational Anthropocene idea in February 2000 during a scientific meeting on human-caused global change. At the meeting, Crutzen's frustration grew as peers described momentous shifts in Earth's operating systems, but always anchored them in time by mentioning the Holocene. Holocene is the formal name for the wholly recent epoch of planetary history that began at the end of the last ice age 11,700 years ago. At one point, Crutzen couldn't hold back. He interrupted a colleague, as the scientist Will Steffen later described, and here Andrew Rifkin uses Will Steffen's quoting of Paul Crutzen. Stop using the word Holocene. We're not in the Holocene anymore. We're in the searching for the right word, the Anthropocene. Shortly after that meeting, Rifkin continues, Crutzen learned that Eugene F. Stormer, an admired analyst of tiny lakebed diatom fossils, had used the word in the 1980s. The two scientists collaborated on an essay for a newsletter for Earth Systems scientists. They laid out a scientific rationale for the term and explained why, even though there was no tradition of naming geological spans for their causative elements, in this case, it was justified. Crawford died at age 87 in January 2021. And as we get used to the word Anthropocene, I'll add that the word was added to the Oxford English Dictionary in 2014, the same year as selfie and upcycle. An English professor at Cambridge University reported, "It's not yet in my online Merriam-Webster." Crawford Lake revealed what might be the best evidence, and so precise from the lake's qualities of preservation, to place the beginning of the Anthropocene in the 1950s. There have been other times of change considered for the Anthropocene. Remember, the meaning is the age of people, or humans, or man, however you want to interpret the label for our species that has done so much to the planet. And it seems most of the detectable change recently. A New York Times editorial a dozen years ago stated, "Those of us alive today may well be able to say we were present when the Anthropocene epoch was formally adopted. But we will not be able to say we were present at the start of the Anthropocene. There is a strong case that the Anthropocene begins with the Industrial Revolution around 1800, when we began to exert our most profound impact on the world, especially by altering the carbon content of the atmosphere. We are the only species to have defined a geological period by our activity, something usually performed by major glaciations, mass extinction, and the colossal impact of objects from outer space, like the one that defines the upper boundary of the Cretaceous. Humans were inevitably going to be part of the fossil record," the editorial continues. "But the true meaning of the Anthropocene is that we have affected nearly every aspect of our environment, from a warming atmosphere to the bottom of an acidifying ocean." In 2015, Andrew Refkin blogged that in a paper in Nature, two scientists point to the year 1610, marked by, of all things, a sharp but brief dip in carbon dioxide concentrations revealed in ice cores. The greenhouse gas decline, they say, is thought to have been the result of the implosion of civilizations in the Americas, as European-carried diseases killed off tens of millions of inhabitants of the New World. The collapse of agriculture would have resulted in enormous regrowth of forests, and thus the uptake of CO2. This, they say, is when the collision of the new and old worlds was first felt globally. They say the only other candidate that meets the criteria for defining a geological epoch is 1964, associated with the fallout from nuclear weapons tests. In Canadian Geographic, Alana Mitchell wrote that all of the markers of the new epoch are linked to what's known as the Great Acceleration. That's the period after the Second World War, when human activity began to overwhelm Earth's operating systems. Population surged, so did industry, driven by burning fossil fuels, which loaded the atmosphere with carbon dioxide. Add to that plastics, nuclear tests, nitrogen-based fertilizers, and species depletions. All of it showed up in Crawford Lake. And Crawford Lake's sediment layers of recorded human-caused change dates to the 1950s, not 1964. The big Washington Post story hidden beneath the surface from this past June, written by 5 journalists that I've been quoting, and I'll post a link to it on our church's private Facebook group, states, in just 7 decades, the scientists say. Humans have brought about greater changes than they did in more than 7 millennia. Never in Earth's history has the world changed this much, this fast. Never has a single species had the capacity to wreak so much damage, or the chance to prevent so much harm. Andrew Rifkin, the journalist and blogger, pointed to 3 main objections people raised to the Anthropocene term. That it's arrogant, because the designation of the Anthropocene, the new age of humans, is our crowning act of self-mythologization. We are the super species, we the Prometheans, we have ended nature, and as such only embeds the narcissist delusions that have produced the current crisis. And it's universalist, and not in the way we describe the universalist roots of our Unitarian Universalism. Because the Anthropocene assumes a generalized anthropos, whereby all humans are equally implicated and all equally affected, but the poor and dispossessed are far more in it than others. The third objection is that it's capitalist technocratic, because the dominant narrative of the Anthropocene has technology as its driver. Recent Earth history reduced to a succession of inventions: fire, the combustion engine, the synthesis of plastic, nuclear weaponry. Philosophically, Rifkin wrote, the Anthropocene concept does huge work both for us and on us. Systemic in its structure, the Anthropocene charges us with systemic change. And there are some people, Rifkin reports, who, to the dismay of those who first proposed it, have the Anthropocene being reframed as an event to be celebrated, rather than lamented in fear. Instead of final proof of the damage done by techno-industrial hubris, he continues, the eco-modernists welcome the new epoch as a sign of people's ability to transform and control nature. Although the eco-modernists write as humanists, I add on a philosophical level rather than the philosophy, ethics, and religion breadth, humanism of our liberal religion that includes non-theism. They construe the new epoch in a way that is structurally a theodicy, that is, a theological argument that aims to prove the ultimate benevolence of God. In the end, the eco-moderns' commitment to the good Anthropocene is a secular manifestation of the religious idea of providence, with man rather than God guiding humans' destiny. Our church's seminarian, Melissa Jeter, and I both took graduate courses in eco-theology. Hers was last year at Methodist Theological School in Ohio, where she is still studying for a Master of Divinity degree in preparation for Unitarian Universalist ordained ministry. Mine was way back in 2007, 16 years earlier, at Meadville Lombard Theological School, an eco-theological ethics course taught by Michael Hogue. Professor Hogue's scholarly work is largely in the area of theology and ecology. He has called the Anthropocene a paradox that signifies simultaneously a dangerously human age for the earth and an age of ecological possibility for humanity, and brought forward a concept of resilient democracy, which provides a normative theory of democratic life that generates and guides efforts to enhance human and more than human life in contexts that threaten life. He later published a political theology for the Anthropocene, a chapter in the Routledge Handbook of Religious Naturalism. So, we humanists, religious naturalists, need to be attentive to the Anthropocene and its effects, and our part in the effects. And as Michael Hogue and other scholars show, that need includes our identifying ways to know and change. Now, let's return to Crawford Lake with the help of Alana Mitchell in Canadian Geographic. The lake and the land around it, she reports, are owned by Conservation Hilton, a private organization. The area is part of the Niagara Escarpment UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. We can be pretty well assured that the lake will continue to be a good site for scientific research. Crawford Lake was already special long before the planet's stratigraphers got involved, Mitchell wrote. Shortly after the Conservation Organization bought the lake in 1969, studies revealed its unusual chemistry. That led to the first sampling of its sediments, which in turn led to the finding in the 1970s of corn pollen in layers dating to the Middle Ages, centuries before colonization. That triggered archaeological work to check for the presence of indigenous settlement near the lake from that era. The result was the discovery of intricately crafted longhouses dating from the 15th century. 3 replicas now stand on the site, a short walk from the lake, along with interpretive displays. The water helps to tell our story, not just for this time, but with methods of science for all time. We might be entering the age of the human, not as a biblically described controller of dominion, but as people who are leaving behind not just evidence that we were part of earthly life, but that we and the earth coexisted so harshly that we changed it, and I hope didn't destroy it. Let's do what we can to live gently and to show humans at our best. So be it.
Every Sunday in our church, we collect an offering. It's good to remind ourselves from time to time that the offering is symbolic as well as practical. We know that it's through pledges that we build our budget and fund our programs and ministries of worship, outreach, and religious education, pay our staff and religious leaders, and finance this building. So while our offerings sustain what is important to our church's practical requirements, may our gifts today also convey our deep desire to grow this life and mission of the congregation in Toledo, in our nation, and in the world. May we give in love and in faith. There are several ways to give. Online, please log into uutoledo.org and click on Giving and then Online Giving. By mail, you can send a check to our mailing address, 3205 Glendale in Toledo. The zip is 43614. And guess what? You can also give in person. We do not pass the plate, but as you're exiting the sanctuary today, there will be a receptacle where you can leave either a check or cash, and we greatly appreciate your generosity. Thank you.
was worth staying for. Almost done. It's the coming soon part of our service, where we tell you what's on the calendar for next week. We give some announcements, and we also let you know what's up for right after the service. Next Sunday at 9:45, our spiritual forum will have a speaker whom you all know. Spiritual Forum was back today after its more casual summer format, and we thank Phil Park Thomas for leading that this Sunday. Next Sunday will be Ask the Minister. I'm the minister. Please bring whatever questions you have about this church or Unitarian Universalism or my own life. I'll answer as best I can, but I'm not trying to cram for a test, so I don't know could be my reply. That's at 9:45 next Sunday in Fellowship Hall. Then the 11th service continues our getting back aspect to focus on our upcoming church year at First Unitarian Church of Toledo. 8 months from now is the sermon title. And what's 8 months from now is our next annual meeting. So I'll hope to inspire us to do some hard work that at the last annual meeting we said we need to do in order for us to position ourselves better for a good future here.
I guess it's my turn to make some announcements now. First is about childcare here on Sunday mornings. We're in need of nursery and religious education volunteers. We are not quite back to a curriculum and teaching Sunday school regularly, but we are starting to get a few more children each week, including some very young ones who aren't so good yet in groups. So Jenny could use some helpers. Please contact her, because we may need to do some paperwork before you're on the schedule. The sooner the better to start the process, please. Also, this coming Tuesday, the day after tomorrow, from 6 to 8 p.m. right here at the church, we will have a Unitarian Action Panel discussion titled, "And Justice for All." I'm hoping that all of you will want to attend and invite others whom you think would be interested in the program and also want to learn about the values of Unitarianism. We have a great panel of 7 leaders from our community, CEOs of the Neighborhood Health Association and the Fair Housing Center, Municipal Judge Timothy Kuhlman, the Director of Racial Justice from the YWCA, the Vice Chair of the Board of Equality Toledo, and 2 staff members from ABLE and Legal Aid of Western Ohio. These folks will be here to discuss how they and their organizations are promoting justice for all. It's important that you be here because our congregation affirms and promotes justice, equity, and compassion in all human relations. With this panel discussion, it's hoped that attendees will learn about putting justice and love into action in our everyday lives. Also, this coming Saturday, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., our church rummage sale will take place indoors, rain or shine, in the Fellowship Hall. We're asking you to gather your fine cast-offs or artwork, whatever that you value or maybe don't value so much anymore. Bring them to the church during office hours by making arrangements with Julia McGee for other times. Julia, are you in here? Well, she's in the back, so you can't see her raising her hand, but she is. Thanks for helping the church raise some funds through your stuff. And we hope that by volunteering for the sale, again, see Julia, also spend a few dollars for your help, a few dollars for yourself.
And actually 2 more things from me. One is we have some more peace lilies here that I ask you please take home, adopt them yourselves, give them a good home. There are also 5 trees, I understand they're ficus trees, at the entryway, and they are also giveaways. I have learned that the mystery person who has been leaving plants at our door for us to give good homes is named Josiah Brand, but I really don't know anything more than that. We do appreciate that he thought of we Unitarian Universalists as people who both like the environment, might be kind to houseplants, and have a community garden so there's evidence that we can grow things. If they stay here, they will not get watered regularly and they will not thrive. So please take the plants yourself, take them home. And the other announcement that I wanted to make, and I have completely lost my place, but I'll get there really quickly, is to please make plans, if you can, to attend an all-congregation workshop on September 23rd. That's a week from Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. The time is still not set, but it will be that day. Our Unitarian Universalist Central East Region Field Staff Contact, Reverend Sunshine Wolf, will lead a meeting that I hope inspires us to volunteer for the church and make our church stronger through participation.
And I have one more little reminder. We talked about it earlier. Please remember to join us today after service. Thanks for your patience also. We went a little bit long, but it was worth it. Not just for coffee today, but for a potluck time and social time in Fellowship Hall. If you didn't bring a dish, that's okay. There's plenty for all. We'd love to share a meal with you, meet each of you that might be new. Feel free to ask us any questions. I think that's it.
I think so. And I thank you again for bearing with us for the technical difficulty, late start from that. The service itself is just under 90 minutes. I think for a water ceremony service, that's good. Thank you all. And while I read what will be standard words for this church year, when we figuratively send the flame into the community, Luann will extinguish the chalice fire. The words are in your order of service, and shall we recite them together? We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of the community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our final hymn is number 1064 in the teal hymnal, Blue Boat Home.
Thank you.